Welcome to Disaffected. I'm Joshua Slocum, and this is the show where we talk about politics, culture, and relationships through a psychological lens. It's June 1st, 2025. Disaffected is about narcissism. Narcissism, described another way, is childishness. It's the selfish, egotistical, blinkered view that children have before their character is fully formed. We talk about cluster B personality disorders, the cluster that includes narcissism, a lot on the show because this show has a thesis. We are living in a society-wide, scaled-up version of the domestic and child abuse home that you may be familiar with when it's in a domestic setting. Abusive homes are animated by people with narcissistic personalities, cluster B personalities, not only narcissistic personality disorder, but all of cluster B. Most abusive parents have something going on in the range of cluster B. Could be unstable borderline emotions. It could be more narcissistic. It could be cold and calculating sociopathic approaches. And it's not that cluster B co-occurs with abuse. It's that the term for the kind of mind that abuses a child, the term for that kind of mind is cluster B. It's not that it happens along with it, it's that it is it. There are a lot of other ways to describe cluster B. The thing itself that's being described, the actual behavior, the mindset, and the disposition, is a real thing that occurs in the real human world. Cluster B is one label and one lens to look at it. Another is evil. Another is cult behavior. Another is satanic. Another descriptor is authoritarian behavior. These all describe the same real psychology. But a really accurate way to describe the cluster B mind is arrested development. That's not just a phrase that you know because it was a TV show. It means exactly what it says. Cluster B is arrested emotional development. People get stuck in a toddler or teenager level of emotional processing and understanding. That's what this syndrome is. They're self-centered, they're unable or unwilling to take responsibility for their own actions and the consequences that come from those. People like this don't care what happens to other people as long as their desires are satisfied. And it's obvious that we're living in a world that praises narcissism. And what does that look like in actual practice? If we see cluster B as arrested development, what can we find out if we look at it that way? It means some very strange things in 2025 America. We have chronological adults who proudly act exactly like children in public and at work. I started noticing it years ago when alleged grown-ups began promoting themselves in public, not in hobby groups, in public, online, in their resumes. They started promoting themselves according to what Harry Potter house they belonged in. Never seen grown-ups do that before. This is the first time that people in their 20s or 30s were apparently not embarrassed to, as adults, identify with a book written for 10-year-olds. Then came the vogue for going to, the vague, yes, the vague came too. The vogue for going to class, going to the store, going to work in your pajamas, or sitting around in loungewear with your 25-year-old friends, holding stuffed animals and taking pictures for the gram, as if this were just a normal thing that adults have always done. We can all see that adults today are not adults, and really for the first time in history, we're all acting like it's normal that adults have things called phone anxiety. That's a thing. I'm afraid to make a phone call. Somebody might answer. This is the first time we've had adults who can't do enough mental arithmetic to make change at a cash register when the computer makes an error or they make an input error. These are adults who turn to Grok to write their college papers. I think this is, at the top level, a deliberate scheme that's been bought into unaware by millions of parents and teachers and administrators to dumb kids down and make sure they can't actually do any of the critical thinking that everybody in the education field claims they're trying to instill in children. Listen to this woman who just quit teaching. You can hear stories like this from thousands of public school teachers.
Now that I am no longer a teacher, thank God, I can finally say the things that have been on my mind all school year. Okay? As somebody that taught high school and basically educating our new young adults, we should all be scared. Every last one of us should be scared. These kids cannot read. They cannot write. There is no type of comprehension skills, no type of critical thinking. They cannot do anything on their own. They expect everything to be taught to them. Well, I won't even say taught. They expect everything to be given to them. So in my class, we did this thing where I made them write once a week. So they would have some type of assignment where they would have to write at least a paragraph, meaning 5 sentences. 5 sentences. The amount of assignments that I got in with 1 sentence, 2 sentences, the amount of complaints I got where with the whole 5 sentences, that's too much. That's too much. Can we do 3? Can we do 3? Isn't 3 considered a paragraph? Oh, baby. We are in for a wild ride, y'all. Every assignment that I gave them, I kid y'all not. Every assignment that I gave them, there was a student that came to, several students that came to my desk and asked me to walk them through the entire assignment. The whole thing. But genuinely, the truth of the matter is everybody is failing these kids. Everybody. The school board with all these different rules, they're failing these kids. The principals or admin altogether, they're failing these kids, and they're failing the teachers because they're basically telling us that we had to get past the child alone just to keep these graduation numbers up.
Yeah, we can lower the volume down on this one, Kevin, and there's a lot of that is similar, but you get the picture, right? Everyone knows that what she's saying is true. Even the people who scream to deflect away from it and say not all. No, not all, but yes, most. Yes, most. And no, not just the poor schools with the poor kids. They're not graduating in Northern Virginia either with any with actual literacy. It's just not happening. This was entirely predictable, and people did predict it. They looked at helicopter parenting and the safetyist obsession that started in the 1990s. They watched schools relax standards for equity's sake, and they told the world, people who were noticing this, that we are going to be awash in grown-ups who don't know that they're not in the 7th grade. People have been saying this literally for decades now. Watch what's going to happen. Look how far these educational reforms that we talk about have gone over the past 20 and 25 years. The San Francisco School Board today, just the other day, they pulled this proposal back after it became public, but they made this proposal. This is what they had planned to do until people objected. They decided to have a program called Grading for Equity. You know where this is going. So what would that mean? 1, kids could not be marked down on their grade for skipping class or for failing to participate in class. Then they redefined the letter grade A to mean if you got 80% right on a test. An A should be like a 95 or higher, but they've redefined A now to mean 80%. That's a high C or a low B. That's what that is. But now it's called A. If you got as low as 41% of the answers right on a test, you would get a C. A C grade is actually somewhere in the mid-70s. Okay, a 41 is an F. That's failing. Not now. That's a C. That's average. If you got only 21% right, you would get a D. Not an F. You didn't fail, but you got a D. No, you're not failing when you get only 21% right, because nobody fails. No kid is a failure. Not only does this lie to kids and tell them that they're competent when they're not, but it cuts down the good scholars and tells them that they haven't accomplished anything. They haven't done anything better than the laziest screw-offs in their class. And that's deliberate too. That's what equity means. This is communism. This is the plot of Harris and Bergeron. That's what this is. The schools have become the handicapper general. But all of society is participating in the handicapping of children. It's in places we've never seen it before. I was in McDonald's the other day and I looked at their playroom, the play space, playland, whatever they call it. I was shocked, first of all, that they had one at all because of this safetyist thing. You know, you got to have rubber bumpers on everything. But the signs shocked me more. What I'm about to show you, you might not even have noticed because you've gotten so used to seeing it. But this never occurred. You never saw something like this before 10 years ago. I transcribed it for you. Let's put it up there. This is what the McDonald's Play Place sign said. If you're on audio, I'll explain it to you. It's, are you excited? Are you strong? Are you ready? But the word R is not spelled out A-R-E. It's just the letter R. They did it in text speak. Text speak. The letter R. Are you excited? No, it's not a small thing. These are words directed at children. We're at the point in society where, I mean, we never depend on corporations to educate our children. Yes, we know that McDonald's simply wants to sell the parents a lot of junk food to the kids. Granted, understood, never misunderstood that. But even no companies like this would so irresponsibly have encouraged, I don't even know what do you call that? But when you put something out there for children, you'd spell it correctly because there was a shared baseline assumption that we're all to educate children. This is weird. It's also predictable because the stupid girls and boys who told everyone at age 28 that they're in House Hufflepuff are now the marketing executives who are making decisions like this. That's them. Remember how you heard, oh, they'll learn when they get out into the real world. No. Do you remember little golden books from your childhood? The slim volumes of charming little tales of farm animals and their childhood friends. Here are some classic little golden books that, surprisingly, are still available. We've got The Pokey Little Puppy. Then this was my favorite, The Little Engine That Could. I had it on, this one came with a 45 record. Scuffy the Tugboat is also still available, but these are only the last remnants of childhood stories available in the little golden books anymore. I was at a bookstore this week with my friend Holly in Stowe, Vermont, and in the kids section, I saw a display of little golden books, a whole rack. On the entire rack, I found only one classic story from little golden books, only one. And there were probably 60 to 70 books on that rack. Only one that was actually written for kids. All the rest were titles like what I'm about to show you. First one, My Little Golden Book of Harry Styles. Harry Styles, the pop star, wearing a pink feather boa. My Little Golden Book of Zendaya, a Gen Z tart actress in a tart pose on the cover. Or how about this? My Little Golden Book of Taylor Swift, millennial pop-tart superstar in a tart outfit. Or Saturday Night Live, Little Golden Book. Saturday Night Live, possibly the most adult show on network television. Why is this a little golden book for children? Why do we believe children need to learn about this branded network show for adults that happens to have a hard left bias and Trump derangement syndrome? Why? Again, adults, especially if you're close to my age 50, note this. Note that you never saw this before. That's not what little golden books looked like. All right, let's keep going. It's more about celebrity now. We've got My Little Golden Book about Betty White. Now, I loved Betty White, but she was an adult who definitely did not do kid-friendly comedy. She was not a children's entertainer. Far from it. Why is she a little golden book? And of course, we have to have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, liberal feminist idol. Why is she a little golden book? Would you like more? Take a look at the range of books that you can find on the Little Golden Books website. You got biographies, favorite characters, classic tales, etc. Let's look at what they call change makers. So we have Harriet Tubman. Can we put that up, please? The graphic of change makers, Kevin. We've got Harriet Tubman. We've got Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Jonas Salk. So we have Saint Harriet Tubman, Saint Oprah Winfrey, the richest black female narcissist in the world, and the inventor of the Salk vaccine. I'm sure they don't mean to be political. Here are some other change makers. That's the next graphic. Who do we have? Caitlin Clark from the Women's Basketball Association, or Selena, or Maya Angelou. So we've got it up to the minute. Women's basketball player Caitlin Clark, long dead Mexican singer Selena, and Maya goddamn Angelou. I'm sure that it's not a millennial feminist who made these selections. Well, don't like these? Try some others. Are your kids up to date, for example, on Seinfeld? Because Little Golden Books has got you covered for that too. Who are these people? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. There's a few more change makers. Sonia Sotomayor. This is just unbelievable. We've got Latina Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor and the world's favorite manipulative borderline, Diana Spencer, Princess of Wales. You know exactly what kind of people are running this publishing house. But the question again is, why is this for children? Now I want to finish this off with a treat for you, audience. I want to do like a Joan Crawford thing. My wonderful fans. Sit down for Uncle Josh's Story Hour. We're going to read my new little golden book about Kamala Harris. Are you ready? Get your blankies. My little golden book about Kamala Harris. I have some pictures for you. I'm going to show it so everybody can see it. Let's go. Here we go. Kamala Devi Harris is the first black person, first South Asian American, and first woman vice president of the United States. Kamala was born in Oakland, California on October 20th, 1964. Her parents were immigrants. Kamala's mother was a scientist from India, and her father was an economist from Jamaica. Parenthetical, we won't talk about the fact that she didn't grow up with her father. I guess we will. Kamala's parents separated when she was young, and Kamala and her sister Maya were raised mostly by their mother, who taught them to be, quote, conscious and compassionate about the struggles of all people. While growing up, Kamala attended a Black Baptist church, black is capitalized, and a Hindu temple. See? That's her being faithful. In kindergarten, Kamala was one of many capital B black students who were bused from their poor neighborhood to a school in a wealthier part of town. When Kamala and Maya went to visit their father on weekends, there were kids in that neighborhood who were not allowed to play with them because they were capital B black. Dring! I have to do the chime to turn the page. Kamala's mom got a job in Canada, so the family moved there when Kamala was 12. It was so hard to leave sunny California to go to a place where the winters were cold and snowy. Her family lived in an apartment complex that didn't allow kids to play on the lawn. Kamala and Maya held a protest, and the rule was changed. See, here they are holding a protest to change the rules. This lawn is for everyone. Let us play. Kamala made close friends at school in Canada, but she missed her home, the United States. Bring! Kamala returned to the United States for college. She went to Howard University, a historically capital B Black university in Washington, D.C. She joined the debate team and the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, where she organized service projects. She continued to participate in protests against injustice. See? She is injusticing. After graduating from Howard, Kamala went to law school. Look what a cool chick she was for graduating. Bring! For her first job out of law school, Kamala became a prosecutor, representing the people of California in court against those who broke the law. She focused on helping women and children who were victims of crime. See? In 2003, Kamala became the district attorney or top prosecutor of San Francisco. She was the first capital B Black woman and the first South Asian woman in California to be elected to this position. Bring! 8 years later, Kamala was elected Attorney General of California, the highest law office in the state. During her time in that role, Kamala worked to protect California's homeowners, the environment, women's rights, and LGBTQ plus rights. She also helped make the police more accountable for their actions. See? Here she is. She's high-fiving the bearer of California on the flag. And over here, she's talking about a women's march. And here, she's showing allyship for the queer community. And just so many things. Bring! In 2014, Kamala married lawyer Doug Emhoff and became stepmom to his 2 children, Cole and Ella, who lovingly call her Mamala. Kamala loves to cook for her family and friends. She grew up eating dal, yogurt, and spiced vegetables that her mom prepared, and she started cooking as a kid, making scrambled eggs topped with cheese in the shape of a smiley face. Now her favorite foods include tuna melts, different kinds of beans, and roast chicken with lemon and herbs. Bring! Kamala exercises every day and has a collection of her favorite sneakers, Converse Chuck Taylors in many colors. Jammin'. In 2016, Kamala was elected United States Senator for California, becoming the second capital P Black woman, and the first from California, and the first South Asian American to be elected to the U.S. Senate. During her Senate career, Kamala defended the rights of immigrants and questioned witnesses. She also spoke on the floor of the Senate about the fact that no one is above the law, including the president, during the first impeachment trial of President Donald Trump. Bring! Look at her. Look at this picture. Yeah? Strong Black woman. In January 2019, Kamala announced that she was running for President of the United States. She talked about issues that were important to her, including civil rights, anti-racism, women's rights, and getting health care for everyone in the United States. Lots of people supported Kamala for president, but over time it became clear that she would not win the nomination. I'm sorry, I cannot keep this up. The bitch got 1% in the primary polls, but she won the support of... Do you see this propaganda? The little golden books? What the fuck? Sorry, let me continue. She ended her campaign and encouraged people to vote for fellow Democrat Joe Biden. Bring. Soon after, Kamala accepted Joe Biden's offer to be a vice presidential candidate. Once again, Kamala was the first African American and the first South Asian American to be named a vice presidential candidate for one of the 2 major political parties. She was also the 3rd woman. Kamala said she believes strongly in the values her mother taught her. A vision of our nation as a beloved community where all are welcome, no matter what we look like, no matter where we come from or who we love. Bring! We're almost done. That November, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were declared the winners of the election. She wore white the night of the announcement in honor of those who fought to get women the right to vote, something that had happened only 100 years earlier. During her victory speech, Kamala talked about her mother and the, quote, generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality, liberty, and justice for all. On January 20th, 2021, a historic day, Kamala took the oath of office as Vice President of the United States. She continues to fight for the rights of all Americans, and she said, while I may be the first woman in this office, I won't be the last. This story ends before more recent events where she lost the presidential election. Bring! Oh my God. Are we at the end of this? We are. Thank God it's time for a commercial. Let's stop talking about Kamala Harris. And in fact, don't give your money to these bastards at Little Golden Books. Send it to the Van Buren family who run BiltongUSA.com. They sponsor our show. Biltong is delicious cured meat done in the South African style, very thinly sliced beef cured with vinegar and spices. It is absolutely delicious. I ate a whole bag while I was writing this script, and you can get some too. In fact, you can get exotic stuff like kangaroo meat if you really want to. Head over to BiltongUSA.com and peruse their wares. They have a wide selection of meat in varieties of spice levels. They also have some European groceries and other merchandise in there. Be sure to use promo code JOSH to get 10% off your order. We'll see you when we come back.
Disaffected is now streaming on X. Come with us each Sunday and dare to notice reality. You can find us on X at DisaffectedPod.
If you want to see inside the minds of histrionic and borderline women and gay men, talking about their celebrity idols is a great way to do it. Insecure and unstable people often have what you might call head relationships with stars, mental relationships that don't exist. You might call it a fantasy trauma bond. I know this firsthand because I had such a relationship in my head with Madonna for decades. She would be my best friend in one dream and tell me secrets that nobody else knew. And in the next dream, she'd start ignoring me and pretending I wasn't there. And I experienced these dreams as intensely emotionally powerful, as absurd as that is. That's what happened. And it's the same thing for people who do this no matter what the star is. Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Madonna, Lady Gaga, in older times, Judy Garland, Liza Minnelli, etc. I've talked about this on the show before. I've outgrown Madonna. I grew up and she did not. Now I see her as a very dark force in the world. She is a bad person who does bad things. And some of these bad things affect children. Most of all, the ones that she bought while calling it an adoption. So I had some things to say to her on her Twitter feed this week. More on this and more on the reaction to that in a minute. But have you heard the social media phrase, protect the dolls? Dolls means transgender women or men in dresses and lipstick. Men with paraphilias. It's a slogan that's being tossed around by the left and celebrities right now to show how very good they are. How much they want to protect the male dolls who are beating female high school students on their own sports teams and going into women-only nude spas and getting their doll cocks and balls out. which they're still doing, and the courts are still upholding their right to do this to women. So naturally, Madonna had to say the phrase too. Here she is on her Twitter feed wearing a shirt with that slogan behind airbrushing so thick her face looks like a 1940s hand-drawn print ad. Protect the dolls, indeed. So here is what I wrote on her Twitter feed. You were the coolest girl in the world for years. Along with millions of 80s kids, I papered my walls with your posters. I bought every album. You gave us the most beautiful, glamorous fun a young kid could have. Gay boys saw hope when you stuck up for us, especially in the AIDS crisis. And then some of us grew up, but you never did. Every year that ticked by, you thought you could stop it. You got raunchier, even for you, nastier, meaner, greedier, until you literally remade yourself in plastic and became a caricature mask of your former self. What I naively thought was love and light and liberation from you was nothing but narcissistic debauchery. I mocked adults who said that you were a bad influence on girls. Well, they were right. If you had any influence at all on youth now, they'd be on a road straight to hell with a stop under the gender butcher's knife. I wouldn't let a child in my care within 100 feet of you. Now look at yourself. 65 years old, and you're supporting the self-destruction called transgender. And worse, you think this is something young people should take up. And here's the last part that really got their goats. This is the last part of what I tweeted. You're a witch and you're a whore. I miss the old version of you, but then I remind myself that you were never anything but an illusion. And I think I probably talked about this on the show before, but last year I went with my friends George and Clay to see what will turn out to be my final Madonna concert from the Celebration tour. It was absolutely pathetic. I've been to 8 shows of hers. This is the worst I've ever seen. She was not up to par. And it was vulgar and disgusting. And I heard it right out of this woman's mouth. Protect trans kids. All right. Before we get to the meltdowns that I got in reaction to this, I want to clarify something. I called Madonna a witch. And I think I meant it a little bit more literally than you might think. I did mean to say that she was a sorceress, because that's how I see her. She casts spells. She used to cast one so powerful that it made her the richest and most famous woman in the world for quite a long time. I don't think I believe in the supernatural or in God or the devil, but I'm a lot less sure that I don't believe that than I used to be. And part of me emotionally does believe it. That's obvious, even though it's out of step with what I think intellectually. But I do know that magic and spell casting are real. And they're done through words, music, and the artful use of body language and facial movements, especially the eyes. Watch what Madonna does with her eyes. The original meaning of the word glamour was a magical spell that could fool someone into seeing something as the sorcerer wished him to see it, not as what that thing actually was. The word is it's a Scotch corruption. The original word was grammar. So the concept of magic has always been intertwined with words. Now, the social media deluge. I can't count how many people went off on me for that. It was easily hundreds, maybe thousands of Twitter replies. Nearly all of them were from gay men, trannies, and old leftist women. This that I'm going to show you is just a sampling. These responses tell on people's psychology. Notice a couple of themes. Number one, it's misogyny. We're not there yet, Kevin, with the graphics. It's misogyny to call a woman who marketed herself as a whore. You're a misogynist for noticing it. She can be a whore, and we all know that she is a whore, but me saying that she's a whore is an act of abuse. That's a cluster B reversal. Number two, it's not possible that someone like me criticizing her could ever have liked her. I never bought her music and I never understood her. No sane person could possibly say what I said about Madonna, so I must always have hated her. And I can't be gay either because all gays worship Madonna. And the last thing that you'll see in common, these gay men narrate their deepest personal narcissistic fears by projecting them onto other people, in this case, onto me. They think they're hurting my feelings by calling me old, fat, unfuckable, having no sexual market value. They really do believe these things hurt. They don't. I'm not upset by these things. But they are stark-staringly terrified of this happening to them. It's their fear, not mine, but that's why they say it to me. They make the critic the repository of their own darkness inside. So let's show you some. First one up. Alex Gonzalez says, OMG, you sad troll. No one cares about you, just the letter U. You have no relevance or influence. I feel bad for you. Charmed, I'm sure. Next one up, very simple and direct. Okay, psycho. Mar says, the main reason that you as a gay man have the rights you have today is because of trans women. Thanks, Mar. Yeah says, like she gives a fuck about what you have to say, you miserable cunt. Now, some homosexuals told me all about how small they feel, how insignificant they must feel. Well, they didn't do it directly, but they did it by assuming that I'm sour and bitter, and I believe that I'm worthless. I mean, I am kind of sour, but I believe I'm worthless because Madonna is world famous, but I only have a stupid small podcast that no one watches. So Bailey says, but yet the entire world, including, I'm sorry, this gets the voice. This is a guy too. It's typical faggot. But yet the entire world, including myself, knows who Madonna is at the drop of a hat. Without your banner, Joshua Slocum is a name that means nothing to me. So sure, you can make your assessments and split the gays down the middle, but it won't serve you at all. Split the gays down the middle. Bitch, you guys are doing that yourself. You can't even keep your legs together. I don't need to split you. Here's one of the you don't understand from a leftist woman who thinks witches are great. Joy says, you never understood her and you never will. It's always been about freedom, pure, non-judgmental life. Call it what you want. Some of us, quote, witches, always understood. And then again, it's just, quote, music. Well, okay, Joy. Also, I'm lying about children being mutilated. Bertie says, you really are a gullible fool. Nowhere are children going under the knife for sex changes. Okay. Also, I'm a misogynist for, well, I'll show you what I'm a misogynist for. Somebody called an Angus Wilson fan account, I have no idea what an Angus Wilson is, says, wow, calling a woman a whore for having an opinion? You're not a raging narcissist. You're not a raging misogynist at all. Disgusting. You see how feminism works, right? You just lie. All you have to do is just lie. You say the bad man calls the lady names because she had an opinion. No, rando. I called her a whore, not because she has an opinion, but because her profession is being a whore. She is a whore. Do I call a car because you just called that car a car because you're mad at it? But the most dysregulated jack-in-the-box in this whole set was a homo who called himself Tristan because naturally. The projection and disclosure of his own fears is so detailed that it's practically diagnostic. So he says, the difference is that Madonna has stayed true to her politics, beliefs, morals, and ethics. You've just done what most boomers do. Become the people you once couldn't stand. Boomer, you became an asshole. Lol. Then he lies, pretending people weren't throwing mud and profanity at me, but they were merely just asking me to be nicer to Madonna. So Tristan says, I saw a bunch of people had simply replied asking you, a man, in all caps, not to call women you disagree with, bitch, cunt, and whore. When it comes to obsessive BPD behavior, you're the one who already posted 3 gigantic essays on her today and can't accept people disagreeing with you. I didn't post 3 gigantic essays. I did post one essay. I reposted one of the Madonna feature articles that you may have seen on Substack, so that people could actually consider the deeper parts of my point of view if they wish to do so. You can always just scroll by. That's how they do it. They do this reversal, these cluster B types. They do all these things. Then you say to them, you know what? You sound a little unstable. You're a little manipulative. And they say, no, it's you. You're the one doing it. You're the borderline. You're the narcissist. You're the abuser. Here's where we learn what Tristan most fears about himself. So he says, regardless, it's not working for you. Your very amateur hour YouTube rarely attracts more than 2,000 views. You look like a bloated, disappointed old queen that is sexually invisible to all gay men. No one ever fantasizes about fucking you. For you, it doesn't get better, I'm afraid. Lol. Again, none of this hurts my feelings. I expect it. But I do want you to know, I'm showing it to you because I want you to notice what it is. It's sadism. That's sadism. It's glee in contemplating the degradation of someone else because he didn't like what I said, because he disagreed with me. Reversal again. Someone who didn't hurt him, someone who didn't initiate any aggression against him, someone who didn't say anything to him personally, but he's got glee in contemplating bringing someone else low because they criticize the celebrity that he is obsessed with. That, my friends, is typical gay men. If you're interested, I put up another example as a top-level post on Substack called Idolatry and Vicious Gay Men. I just published that a couple days ago. I snagged a covert narcissist who started out with this line. He said, "This sounds really unhinged, bro." I took him to the cleaner, so check it out on our Substack. Now, last week, I did a monologue on judging human books by their covers. The gist is that human beings are not books. And telling children and other people to ignore the way people present themselves is not kindness. It's actually hurting them, especially children. The ideas that we're all supposed to believe are the following. Number one, you can't tell anything about a person's likely behavior from the way they look, no matter how bizarre their hair, makeup, clothes, or jewelry. Number two, it's morally wrong to make any assessments at all based on appearance. That's what we're supposed to believe. Of course, this is a reversal of traditional morality and wisdom. It is to take the lesson of Little Red Riding Hood and turn it around backwards. It is to tell the child reader, if what looks like a wolf is inside your grandma's clothes, you are being a bigot if you notice it and call it a wolf. Grandma clothes means grandma, not wolf. You're going to hurt people if you question whether they're telling the truth. That's not supposed to be the lesson of Little Red Riding Hood. So who would say that aside from Satan? Well, a majority of American adults actually would say this. I'm betting some of you have told children not to judge books by their covers. And I bet you hear it all the time. And for many of you, until I brought it up specifically, it probably never sounded odd to you, never occurred to you to rethink it. I mean, this happens to all of us. We hear these pieces of wisdom and we just repeat them, but we don't actually look at what they mean. That's why I point this kind of thing out. So even when people are obviously dressing up in an antisocial way, even when we have indisputable evidence that a person is deliberately trying to rile or discomfort or even scare onlookers, people will shout at you that you're a horrible meanie for pointing it out. They'll also lie and say things like you're making fun of marginalized people when you're not. They do this by pointing to whatever quality it is that these marginalized people have that makes them, quote, marginalized, but they deliberately pretend that they don't see the other conscious choices that marginalized person is making, the ones you're actually criticizing, because they need to make you look like a bigot, so they just lie. This unfortunate young woman we're going to show you is a perfect example. She is notionally black, but she suffers from albinism. She's an albino. Oh my God, here we go. All right, maybe I can Sorry to break in here, but we have been infiltrated by kitties again. I'm going to have to put a lock on the door. Mina, say hi to the nice people. Okay, now leave Daddy alone. He's got a show to do. I'll beat you with a wire hanger later. So this young woman has albinism. If you're on audio and you can't see this, I'm going to describe it to you. She's a young woman. It could be anywhere from 18 to 25. I have no idea. Through no fault of her own, and I say this merely descriptively, I'm not actually making fun of her. She's ugly. She's very unfortunate looking. Not just the albinism either. I'm talking about her bone structure. She's got an unfortunate face. I'm not degrading her. I'm not mocking her for the way she looks, the way she was born. I'm describing something real that needs to be said in order to make the point I want to make.
Hey, on some real shit, y'all need to teach our kids to stop staring. I never wanted to kick a little motherfucker so bad in my life. Like, this little girl just seen me, and she stared at me and screamed. Like, just stared at me and was screaming. Like, literally staring and screaming. Her dad ain't say shit. Now, if I would have whooped her ass for the old and new, I would have been wrong, huh? Would have whooped his ass, too. I don't like no shit like that. Like, y'all need to teach our kids. Everybody is different. Everybody ain't the same. Don't look at me and scream, because now I'm going to whoop your ass and make you scream for real.
So she wants to whoop that little motherfucker ass. That little girl, that frightened little girl screaming. She's going to whoop that motherfucker's ass. Go whoop his papa, too, isn't she? Huh. Let's do some unauthorized noticing. This woman deliberately chose to wear a witch green fright wig. That was a deliberate and conscious choice. She deliberately chose acrylic nail claws that look frightening. She is aware that her natural appearance is already odd and jarring. She knows this. She made herself look like a zombie consciously, with deliberate intent, and she does it to discomfort other people, and she does it for attention. She does it so she can get videos like this one that she took in a pharmacy. She did this deliberately. She knows that her appearance will frighten children. And she wants that to happen so she can make videos like this about how she'd beat children that she calls little motherfuckers. This is an evil woman, not an unfortunate woman, an evil woman. This behavior looks like malignant narcissism, and it's done with intent. Everyone can see it, except the people who pretend that they can't, because they want to facilitate wicked people like this. They identify with these people emotionally. They like bad things. They like frightened children. They like seeing normal people being disturbed. They like evil. I got a bunch of responses to a post I did about this on Twitter. I pulled the thread from just one guy to show you what I mean. This young man is dishonest in the same way that hundreds of other people reacting to this video were also dishonest. So he calls himself Shaggy Huh. He says, if your kid saw a veteran whose face got blown off by a grenade and started screaming, I imagine you'd switch up on this instantly. Disabled people aren't monsters, you retard, he says to me. What was he responding to? I said the same thing on Twitter that I just spoke to the camera to you. Notice the lying. He knows that I'm not mocking her for disability. He knows that, but he's lying and saying it anyway. I was very clear that I was criticizing her conscious choice to dress like a zombie to scare children. Hoping to distract, this guy brings up the image of a war veteran with his face blown off. The purpose of that is to make onlookers have a sympathetic emotional reaction by having the image of a wounded veteran in their head that they will then emotionally associate with this woman in order to paint me as someone who is, quote, mocking disabled people. I'm sorry to say that it more than half the time it works. It works on onlookers. People are very dumb. I called this young man on it, and he pretended that he hadn't seen what I said when I corrected him, and he just kept going. We'll put this up on the screen. He goes, she has an acute form of albinism, not normal albinism. I forget what it's called, but this is what she looks like. There's a picture of her right there. So I responded, he won't admit his lie, even with photo evidence. This woman is a nasty bitch who dons this getup deliberately to frighten children in stores so that she can make black resentment videos and get attention for being, quote, targeted and harassed. That's why she does this. That's not what she looks like. That's what she made herself look like. The green fright wig and the green fright nails, and she knows it. Then our correspondent, Shaggy, went on to criticize the child who screamed and to advise parents to make their children not react when people look frightening. He says, it's a normal reaction, but normal isn't good. You need to teach kids not to fear people just because they look different. And of course, I said this is exactly the wrong advice. I talked about it on last week's show. Telling children not to judge books by their covers is telling children to let the big bad wolf eat them. These people like this woman, they're after your fucking kids. They are after your children. They and their enablers. And they're after you to soften you up so that your kids will be more vulnerable to predation and you won't notice. Normal isn't good. That's the entire point of these people. That's their core value. Normal isn't good. Where might Shaggy's motivation, though, be coming from? Why was he so upset by what I had to say about this? What would cause someone of likely reasonable intelligence to lie and pretend that I was mocking a woman's disability when I clearly wasn't? Why would he ignore my clarification and continue to pretend that I was a nasty bigot? Well, the camera doesn't lie. Here's Shaggy. Yes, a 25-year-old elfin-looking boy with dyed green hair. Shaggy felt personally targeted because he looks like a stupid Muppet dumbass because he dyes his hair green as a fully grown man, so he had to go after someone else. Done and dusted. All right. Last week, I shared a fantasy with you that the British royal family could risk everything it had left, all of its political capital, to stand up for England against the Islamification and Orwellization of their country. I had this fantasy that the king would say, this ends now, this is England, this is the United Kingdom, and this is a Christian country. And I told you I believed that if he did that, that it would work. It would save the country. People would respond positively. I also said I knew it wouldn't happen. I didn't expect it to happen. I knew King Charles would never take a morally courageous step. Instead, this is what the Commonwealth has for a monarch. Here is King Charles addressing a legislative body in Canada.
Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and the Anishinaabe people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed.
You guys are toast. You're toast. England, the UK, the Commonwealth, you're fucking toast. You know, you used to have something called the British Empire? All right. Time for a break, but before we do that, I'd like to remind you, if you would like to bitch about King Charles, you can book a 1-hour consultation with me. You really can. I mean, if you want to complain about King Charles or England, you can absolutely book an hour with me over Zoom. But of course, as you know, I offer myself for coaching and consulting for people who are having issues with family, friends, abuse dynamics. You know, I got a query the other day saying, is it okay if I book an appointment with you? I don't think the problem I'm dealing with has to do with a personality disorder, but we're having real problems. I want to make it really, really, really clear. You don't have to know that the problem in your life is because of a personality disorder. You don't have to say that you believe that. You don't have to be certain about anything. It doesn't have to rise to that. If you are having relationship issues at work, issues with your social group that have anything to do with woke or anything to do with communication, you're absolutely welcome. I'm happy to spend my time with you. I do not restrict my consulting just to, well, this, that. I can't know, of course, whether anybody who talks to me or anybody they talk about actually has a personality disorder. So if you would like to book some time with me, I'd like to be helpful to you if I can. Go to joshuaslocum.net, take a look at my calendar. If you don't see a date and time that works for you, send me an email and I'll schedule something outside of listed hours if I have the availability. And of course, as always, if you are a paid monthly subscriber to Disaffected, you get a nice discount. Thanks, and we'll see you on the other side.
Disaffected is now streaming on X. Come with us each Sunday and dare to notice reality. You can find us on X at DisaffectedPod.
Our member meetup that we have every month is coming up in less than a week on Saturday, June 7th at 12 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time in an online place that we call the Sanity Lounge. I'll be there, and a lot of other people will be there, and I would love to see you there. Come hang out with the good people who support Disaffected with their dollars, their time, and their thoughts. We meet in a spot called the Sanity Lounge, and I post the link on Subscribestar and Substack a couple days before the event. So if you want to get in on that, we would love to have your support and see you. Sign up as a monthly donor at disaffectedpod.substack.com or at subscribestar.com/disaffected. Or if you want to support us, and you know you do, and you just want to make a one-off, got subscription fatigue, I get it. We are very grateful for every one-time bit of support for the show. Simply go to disaffected.com and click on Support Us. All right. A Christian group called Mayday USA recently got a permit to hold a rally and a concert in Cal Anderson Park in Seattle. They got this permit legally through the Parks Department. And this group, Mayday USA, it's a Christian group, they were protesting transgender ideology, abortion, and the incursion of adult sexuality into children's lives and programming and schooling. And then this happened. Quote, Antifa and left-wing counter-protesters showed up in the park, the same location of 2020's deadly Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ, accusing Mayday USA of promoting, quote, fascist family values, and holding the rally in a historically LGBTQ plus neighborhood to incite a reaction. Protesters, including members of Radical Women Seattle and the Freedom Socialist Party, chanted, sang, and waved signs bearing messages such as, "Keep your Bibles off our body," and that was courtesy of the Post-Millennial. Now, Seattle police say things got tense when someone started throwing objects at other people. It was unclear who, but we can guess. And the cops also say that Antifa protesters assaulted them. That is, them, the cops. First, the cops arrested 11 people, and then they arrested 12 more. Then they had to be worried that these freaks were going to try to hurt attendees when they tried to leave the event in the park, because as you'll see from this clip we're going to play for you, all of these freak queer protesters surrounded the attendees. Roll that, please.
All right, so here's the next concern now. This concert is winding down here at Seattle's Cal Anderson Park, but what you've seen is that the far-left activists have surrounded the perimeter of the park. So there's concern now about a lot of these attendees of the concert being harassed as they go home. So again, we're just going to have to kind of wait and see how it all plays out. But the Christian concert is going strong, but it's about to wrap up. But then you have all of this. What do you do if you're trying to go home? And you've got to go through the park surrounded by far-left activists, Antifa, militants, who at the very least will harass the concert goers.
And right now there's a word. There's one word we need.
Yeah, this is a big concern. What's going to happen after the concert? That's going to be the big concern.
Okay, so let's recap and remind. Mayday USA, the group here, had a legal permit for this concert in the park that they obtained from the city. Remember that we have a First Amendment that guarantees not only freedom of religion, but freedom of assembly. Remember that this means that Christians have a constitutional right, just like non-Christians, to use public spaces. And all of this didn't used to need a reminder, but it does now because people don't actually know about or understand the Constitution. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. The younger you go, they literally don't understand the Constitution. They really don't think that people have the right to do this if they're Christians. I'm not making it up. Whew. So given all those facts, what would you expect to hear from Seattle's mayor, Bruce Harrell? Remember, it was the radicals who started assaulting police officers, throwing things at people and screaming. It was 23 leftist activists who got arrested for disturbing the peace and for assault. No Christians were arrested. Okay, Mayor Harrell knows this. You know it, he knows it. So what do you think he had to say about this? Mayor Harrell's statement on extreme right-wing rally at Cal Anderson Park. That's the headline. Quote, I'm sorry, the headline for what? This is the statement from the mayor's office in Seattle. Quote, Seattle is proud of our reputation as a welcoming, inclusive city for LGBTQ plus communities, and we stand with our trans neighbors when they face bigotry and injustice. Today's far-right rally was held here for this very reason, to provoke a reaction by promoting beliefs that are inherently opposed to our city's values in the heart of Seattle's most prominent LGBTQ plus neighborhood. When the humanity of trans people and those who have been historically marginalized is questioned, we triumph by demonstrating our values through our words and peaceful protest. We lose our voice when this is disrupted by violence, chaos, and confusion. I'm breaking in here. Violence, chaos, and confusion came from the left. None of the Christians brought violence, chaos, or confusion. Reversal. Back to Mayor Harrell's quote. Anarchists infiltrated the counter-protesters group. Yes, they infiltrated the counter-protesters, prompting the Seattle Police Department to make arrests and ask organizers to shut the event down early, which they did. Last quote. While there are broad First Amendment requirements around permitting events under free speech protections, lol or whatever, I am directing the Parks Department to review all of the circumstances of this application to understand whether there were legal location alternatives or other adjustments that could have been pursued. The police department will complete an after-action report of this event, including understanding preparation, crowd management tactics, and review of arrests and citations. Stop right there. What broad First Amendment requirements? That's the fucking First Amendment itself. That's the base of it. It's not some add-on, some side issue that you have to litigate. The government must be viewpoint neutral. They cannot deny people freedom of speech, no matter what that speech is. What is there to investigate, Mayor Harrell? He won't stop. Mayday USA criticized him for what they called his bigoted statements against them, and I agree with them. He refused to budge. Now he's claiming that he himself, Mayor Bruce Harrell, is a victim now. Why? Because he's the city's second black and first biracial mayor. Here's what he had to say. We will not be intimidated by this kind of fear-mongering or divisiveness inspired by the rally and extreme rhetoric that takes aim at our residents and at Seattle's second black and first biracial mayor. He's talking about himself. Okay. Last one for this week. The Democrat Party has been floundering, obviously, since the election. We've all seen them lose their minds trying to figure out how they possibly could have lost. They're doubling down on the lawfare. They're getting activist courts to extrajudicially quash every Trump. Oh, my God. Look at me. Listen to me. Sorry, folks. Quash every movement that Trump tries to make, claiming that he has no legal power to deport illegal aliens, no legal power to fire federal employees, even though he's the chief executive, no legal power to change the content of federal government websites. It is simply amazing. We've never seen anything like this. Well, what else is the left supposed to do? They can't win in the court of public opinion. People aren't buying their bullshit. They don't even buy their bullshit. The left doesn't even buy their own bullshit. They don't believe any of the shit they say. So they're reduced to throwing sand in the gears like children. They're just trying to frustrate and delay and shut down. And when they do try to fix their image problems, the Democrats, they come up with ideas like the one we're about to see. Men, and particularly young men, have been abandoning the left and abandoning the Democratic Party in droves. Young men finally see that the Democrat Party hates them and sees them as sin scapegoats that they can put all of their negative feelings on and then kick them out while everyone jeers and points. Young men know you hate them, Democrat. Men, we know you hate us. You bitches and you fop homos who hate everybody who isn't gay and a lady. We know you hate us. We hate you too. So they want their young men back. What are they going to do? How are they going to do it? They're going to hire a morbidly obese white woman who calls herself Latina, speaks in a voice with gear shift tonality, and who really fucking hates men because unless she's literally eating them at the Golden Corral buffet. Roll the podcast clip, please.
The reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody. And Republicans say, you get to do that. And then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously. And it's just such a negative view to take.
You're not one of them.
Like half of the human race.
I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys. And in that, I've realized, like, even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who supported Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of lump them into this box when the truth is, again, a lot of them are with us on the issues. They're just not part of our coalition because they feel like they're not welcomed in it.
No, they're not welcomed in it. They're not part of your coalition. They don't support BLM. None of that is true. That's not what conservative men think. That is Olivia Giuliana, a social media influencer that they're trotting out to help bring men back in. Yes, really. Yes, they hired her to do it. Well, Miss Olivia Giuliana did not like what people had said, so she have a clap back for Joe. Roll it, Kevin.
I'm the person that's in charge of bringing young men back to the Democratic Party, according to Donald Trump Jr., Trump War Room, Libs of TikTok. And while none of that's actually true, every single time I saw one of y'all posting about me, I had one main thought at the top of my head. Y'all are a bunch of... Y'all are the ones that made it about a woman and her identity and the way that she looks. Something that y'all consistently claim the Democrats do. You don't actually give a fuck about young men. Instead, a lot of you want to talk about my weight. You're using pictures of me from about 65 pounds ago. So let me ask you this. If I lose another 65 pounds, will y'all actually raise young men's wages? Will you actually increase funding to mental health services? Or are you just going to find another way to deflect from the fact that y'all don't actually have any policy plan to help them? I can keep making this into some kind of big joke of, oh yeah, let's send her to every frat house in the country. I'm not afraid to go into frat houses or to go to college campuses or to talk to Republicans because unlike y'all, I don't think that they're all shallow assholes. I think that there are actual people who can hold a conversation, but clearly, based off the way you talk about them and the way that you treat them, you think that they're dumb as shit. Well, I actually don't. So I'm going to continue to advocate for young men to get the policy agenda that they do deserve. And I'm going to continue to lose weight. And then maybe when I finally do drop that next 65 pounds, we can revisit this conversation and see if you can actually stand on business. Because this time, none of you fucking did.
Yeah, did you hear that? We're going to see if you can, what the hell, we're going to see if you can stand on business. What the fuck is that? I am so sick of this stupid pigeon English. These young, it just drives me absolutely insane. All right, so I'm going to tell you, we're at the end of the show, but I'm going to tell you a very quick little story here about why when I'm making fun of Latinas, why I always use this accent that sounds like Charo. Yes, I know some of you have told me on Twitter, you've told me in the comments, that's not a Spanish accent. Spanish people don't sound like that. That's not a Mexican accent. Mexican people don't sound. Yeah, I know, and I don't care. Every Latina accent I do is always Charo. Always Charo. That's it. There's no negotiation. But I started developing this from a story that my friend Anna told me when we were in high school. Anna was this really cool chick with like bleach blonde Madonna bob hair. She was beautiful. She wore these, ripped tights and like off the shoulder sweaters. I just thought she was the coolest thing ever. And she was a real bitch. So she took Spanish class. I can't remember the teacher's name, but the Spanish teacher was from a Spanish speaking country. It was not Mexico or Spain. And Anna always got her goat because whenever the teacher would make an error of any sort, like a slight grammatical error or something, Anna would be like, "Miss," and she'd correct her. And the teacher would get so frustrated with Anna. And then Anna would do this imitation later and we'd all laugh about it. And she'd go, "Miss Anna, who is the teacher? You or me? You or me?" And Anna would be like, "You are the teacher."